thanks a ton, Kay, for doing this. One of the pieces that I was super excited when I was looking at your profile was the fact that the amount of time you have spent with instructional design. I don't know too many people who have done that. So I definitely want to learn a bit more about what you have been doing all these years, but more importantly, how that world of instructional design has evolved. So what used to happen 20 years back, probably what used to happen 5 years back, and probably the world has changed completely in the last 6 months. So would love to would love to hear your thoughts on that. And before I jump in any further into the questions, a quick introduction for everyone. So Kay and I work together in EY. That's how we know each other. But you have been, as I said, in the instructional design world for more than 20 years. You have done your doctorate in instructional design and then 20 plus years of working in instructional design. And a lot of it has been with professional services firms such as EY, PwC, and right now you are with a legal firm. And yeah, and you are also an author, is what I gathered from your LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
Perfect. So a multifaceted personality. I didn't know a lot of this when you and I used to interact more often. Thanks to this podcast, I read a bit more about you. Um, Anything that you would like to add to what I said in terms of your introduction? Anything that I may have misunderstood and misrepresented?
No, no, that is all correct, but I do have to provide a little notice because I do work with a legal firm that my thoughts and my opinions are purely my own and not associated with the firm that I currently am employed with. So I do have to share
Perfect.
that.
And I would request that you bring all 20 years of your work to this
A
conversation
hundred
so that
percent.
people can benefit from it. And I'll start with the point that we were discussing. Given that you have seen so much about it in terms of the world is changing, but more importantly, learning development, instructional design, how do you see things have evolved over a period of time, and where do you think we are heading?
It has been an amazing journey. And I will say the interesting part about my perspective is I have been in instructional design, yes, for a long time, and I have learned on the job and worked with people learning on the job, and then also getting official credentials like my PhD in instructional design. So, really learning the evidence-based practices behind why we do what we do as instructional designers. And one thing that I have seen evolve in the field from when I first started till now is more of a focus on really embedding evidence-based practices. I will say years ago, and it may still happen now, how someone became an instructional designer in some cases were they were an employee at the organization. That organization needed a trainer. And they said, "Oh, I like maybe doing PowerPoints. I like doing training." And they applied and got the job. And then there was an org structure. And now that person's title changed and they're not a trainer, they're an instructional designer. And probably doing the best job that they possibly can, but not really having those evidence-based principles. And what I've seen evolve with the field is other professional organizations in instructional design, performance improvement come and really help to embed the rigor in the field. And those individuals who might not have had credentials in instructional design started going to these professional organizations and learning and being more intentional about the practice of instructional design. So that's one thing that I've seen the field and how the field evolved. I myself learned a lot on the job. I remember learning how to write HTML, how to code from a colleague, how to all the way back. I don't know if you've ever authored in Lectora, but it was a very clunky tool, and you had to do a lot of programming and learning from others how to do that. And that is great from the side of the authoring tools from the technology. But now, and there was this whole thing about moving from Addy to SAM and other methodologies to think about how we organize our instructional design projects. So just seeing people not accept, all right, we're just going to do it this way, but look at how the field needs to evolve, how it needs to align to organizations, how organizations need to align the practice of instructional design to fit with what they're trying to achieve has really been, from my perspective, how I have seen the field evolve. And now we have this new thing called AI. So that's where I feel like we are now.
Hold on to that thought of AI. I have a question around it. But to your point, Lectora, thankfully, when I interacted with Lectora, we had a team of or we had a project team which had instructional designers where I would fit in, graphic designers who would visually enhance the entire thing, and we also had tech designers who used to take care of coding, Lectora, etc. So I was fortunate I didn't have to do any coding, but I have seen Lectora, and I remember those days for sure. People were kind to support me as an ID. I had no clue. If I had to code, I would have probably left the world of instructional design long back. But while you were talking about the evolution, one of the pieces you spoke about was performance improvement, and I'm these days I'm hearing a lot about performance consulting. L&D folks have to be performance consultants. What's changing? What are we doing differently, or what's expected of L&D folks, wherein they shouldn't be like the traditional L&D folks, but be more of performance consultants. What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, in the market, what I'm seeing an evolution is organizations understanding there's there are other things that they can do besides training to improve performance. And for years, they would say, "Oh, I have a problem. We need training. Someone's not doing this correctly. Oh, we need training. We need to boost our sales. We need training." And now what I'm seeing is this understanding of, you know what? Let's actually take a look at the problem, uncover the problem, understand all of the dimensions of the problem to see exactly what will be the best solution. And it might be a non-instructional intervention, as simple as a job aid or a checklist for a problem that an organization was understanding, where previously they would just say, okay, let's pull everyone off the phone and give them training, where it's just, you know what, there are these steps that they're missing in the process and it's a common thing. So let's give them a checklist and we don't need to spend all this money on the training. So it's really organizations starting to learn that there are other tools out there, and there are individuals who can help them understand really and diagnose the problem fully and uncover all of the layers and implications to prescribe a solution that will help increase their performance. And depending upon what that problem is, sometimes it is training, an instructional intervention. And it's not just, oh, let's just get in a room or a classroom. It's blended learning, it's other solutions, and being open to multifaceted solutions to help improve that performance, as well as aligning. Previously, I did not see a lot of conversations about return on investment and aligning things to business outcomes. And now the field is evolving, particularly I've seen in professional services firms with saying, if we're going to make this expenditure in this solution, it needs to be aligned to a business need. A business need needs to inform why we're doing it. And we need to have some sort of measure to make sure that it is indeed improving the initial problem that we had. And I really love that about the field because I'm really into assessment and evaluation and
Hmm.
being able to communicate, hey, this is what we did and this is how it impacted performance and improved performance, and really come back to my stakeholders that hired me or called me in to do the job and show how the organization, how employees are better off and how performance has improved as a result of whatever intervention we implemented.
On a lighter note, I was going to say those times were great when we didn't have to prove ROI. Nobody was asking why should we invest, what's the return that I'm going to get. It's a lot more difficult world where we are living, and I do have a question around that as well, but I'll park it for some time right
Okay.
now. Uh, and you highlighted a very interesting piece, which is performance improvement not doesn't necessarily always stem from someone going to training and attending a session or going through a particular e-learning or anything of that kind. It can happen through a lot of other means and ways. Uh, if if I look at that, and given where we how we have evolved as a function, and I'm talking about learning and development as a whole, uh, what are the so let's assume someone's entering the field of instructional design today. What are the new skills that he or she should have, which, let's say, 5 years back you didn't need to have as an ID, but today you do?
That's a really great question. And I would say exactly that, performance improvement. I know when I did my PhD, performance improvement was a part of my program where we talked about non-instructional interventions, but definitely understanding instructional design, that performance improvement piece, human performance technology, understanding some of those models to be able to go in and have those conversations and be able to provide solutions when training isn't the answer, when training isn't the thing that is needed. And then the other thing is now, if you have that background and you're doing performance consulting, 5 years ago you didn't necessarily need to be able to, the consulting was needed, but I think now it's needed even more because we have access to so many different solutions, so many different technologies, that I would say someone really, really, really needs to do some homework on consulting, do some homework on relationship management, stakeholder management, and sales. I think that being able to understand the sales process, because when you're having conversations with your clients, when you're having conversations with your stakeholder, being able to communicate the value proposition of why a given solution is going to help them achieve their business outcomes, and being able to overcome objection when someone says, "Oh, we don't really need what you're saying. That's a little too much. Can you just do this for us?" Well, being able to overcome that objection and say, and be able to explain why you are proposing a solution and how it's going to impact their bottom line or their people or their organization. So I would say even more of the performance improvement methodologies and tools and techniques combined with some consulting and some sales, I would recommend someone who I would recommend for someone entering the field of instructional design now.
You put it across so beautifully, because that's exactly what I keep telling any newcomer in this field when they say that, okay, instructional design is what I want to build further on. I keep telling them that, okay, that definitely is your core, but please ensure that you build your stakeholder management skills, how you're going to consult, how you're going to handle objections, how you are going to handle a difficult customer, right? And sales is so critical, and a lot of times people misunderstand that sales is only if you are in a client facing kind of a role. even
Yes.
if you are an internal, if you are building learning for internal teams, you still need to have sales as a skill, because you have to convince someone to sponsor what you are going to do, isn't it? Even if it's internal, everyone's going to ask the question, why am I paying this dollar to you? So so it's not just client facing, but that's so crucial, and so many instructional designers miss that
Yeah.
particular piece of it. Um, and just going back to one of the other pieces that you spoke about earlier, which was evidence-based learning, and the fact that you learned a lot of things on job, but you also invested in picking academic credentials and learning the theory behind why what's happening. Once again, as someone who has spent so much time in this world of instructional design, would you recommend that to people who want to build a career in instructional design or performance consulting, that pick skills on the job, but also invest in learning things such as theory, framework, not necessarily a credential, but at least invest in learning those things?
100% Pravasi. I was a good instructional designer when I was just learning on the job. I was able to execute, but there's something different when you know why you're doing why you're what you're doing.
Mhm.
And it helps to differentiate between a good instructional designer and then someone who's an expert in instructional design. And being able to enter an organization that does not have a fleshed out instructional design program
Mhm.
and create one for that organization
Yeah.
or for your own practice. Because oftentimes, a lot of organizations already have ways of doing things. They have templates. It's kind of baked. And it's easier for someone to come in as an instructional designer and learn the way that things are done at that organization. But to truly be a highly skilled instructional designer, if one goes out and starts learning the theory, the principles, the frameworks, then they don't have to be stuck at one particular organization. They can go to any organization because if they're just learning on the job, they're learning what works at that organization. And if you change to another organization, then there may be carryover and there may not be carryover. And so learning that theory really gives the framework for someone who can be very powerful in the field and know the rationale behind why things are being done and why you should do things and what actually is good instructional design. And as the field evolves, being able to translate the theory and practice because there's theory and there's practice. And I think there is the person who can come in and translate that and how to flex the theory, if you will, to make it fit and applicable and work into practice. So I would highly recommend that if someone is interested in the field of instructional design and or have been in the field of instructional design and have learned solely on the job, to still be involved in some sort of professional development to learn evidence-based practices.
Yeah. And just listening to you made me realize a few things that I think over the years, as I have invested in learning more about instructional design theories and frameworks, it has helped me do is one, it just increases your confidence when you're interacting with
Yeah.
stakeholders, right? Very often they come and they say, I want a gamified solution. Can you create a game? And you have, so one is instinctively you can say that, okay, game is not going to work in this scenario. But then if you know the framework, if you know the theories, what works, what doesn't work in certain scenarios, then you are relying on evidence to make a statement and support it with evidence that, okay, this is the reason why this may not work. So that comes across as a much more thought through solution than just because XYZ doesn't want it, that's a reason we are not building it. And very often I've seen instructional designers who sort of agree to anything that the stakeholder is saying
Yes.
without, and at times the stakeholder may have a great solution. I'm not denying that, but often they may not. And the reason is because they are not experts at design, isn't it? That's the reason they have come to you. And if you're just going to
Exactly.
follow what they are asking you to do, then what's the point of being a designer, being a consultant in that case? No, absolutely. Now, the big elephant in every room these days, which is AI, right? Everything. And what I love about LinkedIn these days, I'm not on any other social platform, but LinkedIn is
Good for you.
every second day somebody is dying. Either PowerPoint is dying, or Excel is dying, or roles are dying. And I'm like, AI is going to take over this, and AI is going to take over that. And I've been asking this question to quite a few people who have been around for some time, who know what's happening. So the question to you, where do you see the world of learning, training, etc., go with this whole AI thing happening to us?
Right now, I see AI as a tool to accelerate speed to market of a solution. I don't see it taking over as an instructional designer and taking over our jobs because while I think the it can be fed different algorithms and create different things, it still doesn't have, I think, the human touch, the empathy, the compassion, and being emotional intelligence, and the role that that plays into designing a solution. And then, if let's say an organization tried to use AI to create some type of instructional solution, who in the organization is going to that does if they don't have a background in instructional design can say that it's good or not, if it's actually going to solve their problems? Because just I don't necessarily do a lot with AI, but sometimes I'll put in some prompts and try to find solutions to things. And it's not always correct when I do the fact checking and do the vetting. So it still has a way to go. And there's still a level of governance that needs to be exercised when using it. And that human piece, I think, will still be relevant, and there will still need to be someone who says, okay, what the machine spit out, is it actually accurate? Is it valid? Is it going to actually fix the solution? So I think there are parts of the instruction design process where you can leverage AI to expedite creating a solution to get things to market faster, but I don't think it will just take over our jobs at this point.
So what I'm hearing is AI can come into the process and
Yeah.
fasten the pace. However, there will be a human instructional designer needed to first see where the AI element comes in, and second is the output. Is it aligned to how humans learn and how it can improve performance?
Yes. That's my take on it right now until maybe things get a little bit more sophisticated, but that's my thought process.
And I think that's great because to be very honest, I think everyone's just trying to do a crystal ball on what AI is going to do. One of the things that when I was talking to someone and they were for their research, they were interviewing me and they asked that, okay, which function do you think will be hit the most if AI achieves what it promises to achieve? And I said it will be learning and development. And they were like, why? And I was like, because if AI is going to do everything, then you won't need humans to do anything. If you don't need humans to do anything, then they don't need to learn anything. If you don't need to learn anything, then you don't need
That's a great
any
point.
function. But that essentially means that you are taking away the human element from all the jobs because till the point a human is involved, he or she will need to learn something, and till the point they have to learn something, we will be around. We will be around for a really long time. So,
I love that. That's a great way to look at it.
the other piece that I've been hearing a lot is AI generated content. And I think partially you spoke about it, which is uh, somebody has to validate that the content is accurate and it has been designed in a certain way. Um, do you see this becoming sort of a given in, let's say, next 2 to 3 years, that most instructional designers, and as a process, we will be relying on AI to generate the content for us, at least the first draft for us?
I think it's determines on the field because I know there are some fields, like the one I'm in, where it's a no-no, where they really want the content from someone who is a subject matter expert, who does the role day in and day out. And there have been a clear delineation that any content we produce is from a subject matter expert. But then I think there are those fields too who look at the fact that can be done a little bit quicker and that they can get a quick and dirty first draft from AI and tweak it and go from there. So I think it depends on the field and the organization and their attitudes toward AI.
I never thought of that, but now when you said it, it makes a lot of sense. So, um, if I may just ask a follow-up question on that. So, some of these
Hmm.
organizations, uh, is it that they are risk averse from a copyright perspective, or is it more about we don't even know what AI is churning out as accurate?
All
I-
of the
Mix
above.
of it. Okay.
It is a risk management. It is not sure about the accuracy of AI. And then also a compliance measure of, for example, they are for continuing education credits, there are stipulations that say the content has to come from a subject matter expert. So if
Mhm.
you are an instructional designer and you're developing this content, then you go to whatever credentialing organization and say, you need to be able to detail who the author was and detail their credentials to say that they are in fact an expert in this field. And when you have like those compliance requirements, will someone know that you did it? They may not, but as far as an ethical perspective, if that is a part of the compliance requirement, then you really need to use the subject matter expert if that's what's specified. So until some of those organizations evolve, I think from that perspective, that will at least be a requirement or guardrails around some instructional designers using AI for their first draft, simply for those reasons. Organizations may be risk risk averse, but then if you are working at certain professional organizations where there's continuing education credits and then a third party who issues those continuing education credits and they have these requirements that need to be followed, then it becomes a part of ethics that you actually follow their requirements to include a subject matter expert as the author.
Makes sense. Otherwise, of course, it's an ethical issue. However, also, any breach of compliance can be a major brand concern, right? It can come back and
Yes.
hurt you a lot. Um, Absolutely. Now, getting into the interesting side of learning and development and instructional design, our lovely stakeholders. One of the pieces that I think a lot of us try and figure out is somebody can tell us what's the magic word which we go and tell the stakeholders and they say, yes, you can have this. So, in your experience, what are some of the tools, tips that you have used which helps you handle or manage a stakeholder, specifically when you are looking at the sponsors, right? Somebody who's not just going along with you, but is actually putting his or her weight behind you. Um, how do you manage that?
First, I will say it is number one, coming to the the table with your own personal brand that exudes a certain executive presence and confidence. And what that does is communicates, okay, this person is an expert in their field. This person understands their job. But then I think the next step is building relationships so that your stakeholders know who you are, you have an understanding of who they are. And that building relationship piece helps to build trust. And again, them understanding that they can have confidence in you and they can trust what you say. That includes being consistent. If you say that, hey, I'm going to have this for your review on X day, having it for review on X day, or proactively communicating why you don't have it before that due date. So it's being consistent. It is coming to the table upfront, setting expectations. If they have not worked with an instructional designer before, or if they have not worked with you before, having a kickoff meeting and sharing with them, giving them an overview of what the instructional design process will be like, and giving them an overview of the milestones as well as your expectations or things that you will need from them and how much time you'll need from them. So they'll have an understanding so they don't feel like, oh, it's out of left field. You just sent me this email. You want me to review this. I have all these different things going on. I didn't know this was coming. So it's being upfront, communicating the process, communicating the time commitment, your expectations of them and what's needed from them, as well as I think making sure it is a collaborative relationship, setting up ways to get their buy-in before a big sign off or a big final approval. So it almost feels like it's a collaborative effort because if
Yeah.
someone just gets something and they're like, what is this? They review it and they spend all this time. But if they've been along and embedded in the journey, then it feels like a collaborative initiative and they're not surprised and things don't come out of left field and they see their voice in it as well. Then I think that helps overall with a smooth relationship. And I mean, well, as smooth as it can possibly be, there will always, unfortunately, be things that pop up that people have things going on and they might have said they wanted this at one point and then changed their mind. I think that's just a part of of humans and what we experience. But at the same time, when people understand the process, you have done some homework to build relationships and build trust and as well as confidence and made it a collaborative or collaborative as can be. And then the empathy and the compassion, thinking about their schedule and how to be sensitive to it and showing them that they understand, showing them that you understand that they're busy and this is not their full-time job to just review materials or be a stakeholder for this project. I think all helps with managing stakeholders.
I love so many things about what you said, Kay. The most central piece is that in this entire response, your ID expertise is probably the foundation to provide you confidence, but everything else is not directly related to instructional design. It's all about relationship building, how you manage stakeholders, how you keep your commitment, how you are proactive, how you are empathetic. And these are things which many people don't realize IDs do. In fact, 6 months back, for reasons that you and I know, I started learning more about sales. How do you do sales? I have always been in a
Hmm.
full-time job, right? So I don't do external sales as much. But when went through the first two or three courses, I was like, I have been doing all these things over the years, relationship building, try and be in the other person's shoes, try and understand what is it the don't hard sell, figure out what they are, what's the pain that they have, and accordingly position something. And it's like, I've been doing all this, then why is it that we don't say that IDs are doing sales? We are doing, as you rightly
We
said.
are.
If you have to be, and you're absolutely right. I've seen people who are great at designing content, but they probably don't achieve their complete potential as an instructional designer for the simple reason that they are not that great at managing people and managing relationships. So many doors open if you are able to do that. And I think that's true for all jobs, more
Yes.
so for instructional designers, because I think instructional designers, or for that matter, learning and development, you are coming from outside and saying that, okay, I will help you improve somebody's performance. That's a huge claim. So you need to have all those things that you said so that you're able to do that. Uh, One question that comes out of this is specifically leaders who are asking the question that, okay, what's the ROI? It can be before or after, right? So for example, if you're talking about a solution like a simulation or a game, it can be quite expensive. So people do talk about what will be the ROI. Usually, how do you manage these conversations when it comes down to dollar figure in returns?
That's a really great question. And I will say from a perspective of that level three ROI measurement, a lot of organizations don't spend the time to do it. And it's more of a anecdotal conversation of what they can expect to see or some sort of metric of looking at an error rate. And right now, for example, they're experiencing maybe a 20% or 30% error rate. And we can say, or have a goal to reduce that error rate as a result of implementing said simulation or whatever solution. Um, I once worked with an organization where their main metric was quality scores
Mhm.
and the owner wanting to see a certain quality score. And I said, well, right now, if the training is inconsistent, but if we implement this program, a systematic program to have consistent, reliable training, then we can 100% improve this quality score. And we did exactly that by implementing said solution. So I think it is having some metric of what people are doing before and understanding whatever it is you're trying to improve to be able to look at post implementation of whatever solution to measure the gain, to measure the improvement. Sometimes organizations will do the extra due diligence to say we spent X to improve Y, and as a result, things have improved and we see this return on investment. But I don't really see that often. And in fact, that over my career, I've only seen it happen one time where it was that true return on investment. And because it takes time. And I think and money, additional money. And I think what happens is organizations want to see something get better. And you can say, we can improve this metric. And after you implement the training, things are better. It's like, okay, on to the next one. What's next? So I think we can, as a field, definitely communicate the return on investment. But I think sometimes when they just see that initial metric move, people move on to addressing the next issue that pops up, and we don't necessarily like stay focused in and go back and communicate the true impact of a dollar and cents situation. But I think we do, as instructional designers, or at least I have, do the due diligence of saying, of tying the performance improvement to some sort of metric and how the intervention changed that dynamic.
And what I'm essentially hearing is if it's a success, then it's business as usual and people move on to the next big thing. And
A
you
hundred
only
percent.
hear when it's not a success and everyone comes back and starts questioning what did you do?
What happened here?
Where did
Yes.
where did all of it go? Um, Probably the last couple of questions that come to mind, and again related to the stakeholders. Something that you said earlier, keep keep it collaborative and so that there are no surprises at the end. One of the other pieces that I feel uh, having a very strong collaboration does is they some of these leaders they start seeing the solution as their own baby, so their ownership increases that much more, so they become a strong ambassador of the learnings because they have invested so much time and effort, right? They want to popularize it, they want to use it
Yes.
for their own branding, etc. Any example that comes to mind where something like this has made a huge difference to the adoption of a program? Because often we hear that, oh, learners are not registering or the completions are not there. Then people are chasing them that, okay, you need to do this. Um, Stakeholder, a senior stakeholder or a stakeholder who has put his or her weight behind a program, resulting in a higher degree of adoption amongst the learners. Any example from all these years?
Yes, I had a program a few years ago where we directly involved the senior leader and got their feedback about messaging, about, and when I say messaging, I mean inside of the solution, and just involved this person as a member of the project team to get their input about content, about the direction that we were going. And this was a very gracious leader because some leaders aren't going to always come in and be okay with being a little bit more in the weeds. But when we started to involve this person, they really got excited and wanted to be embedded into the project. When we started asking opinions about, do you think we should do this? Do you think we should go this way? Do you think we should go that way? And exactly what you said, it became their baby and they became embedded into the project team, all the way down to branding and colors and fonts. And then they owned it, as you said. And they sent out the comms to the team and said, this is what we're doing. This is what you're expected to do. And I think that 100% led to almost 100% compliance of taking the the courseware, registering for the program. And so I think when that senior leader gets involved and they see their voice and you want to know their voice, you want to have their opinions or their thoughts included, it does exactly what you said. It becomes their baby. They have ownership for it and they stand behind it and they see the vision and they start communicating the vision. And that carries a lot of weight with employees when they say, "Oh, so and so says I need to take this. Let me put it on my calendar and make sure I take it, blah, 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 because I don't want to be on their list of, of not completing this."
Yep.
And it 100% helps to drive um, adoption and completion rates.
And personally, in such cases, one of the other benefits that we learning and development professionals benefit out of is we don't have to invest a lot of effort in proving that it was a good investment of time and effort. It was a good design because you just end up saying XYZ. Have you seen what he has to say about what the training is? Or did you see she went out of the way and released just a statement that the training is great? And that's pretty much it. You are sorted. Nobody is going to ask you for, so, okay, so what's the reaction or how many people have cleared the assessment and all that. All those things take a back seat. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Perfect. I think I have pretty much exhausted all my questions. One last question that I would still ask you before I let you go is any piece of advice for someone who is very young in the field of instructional design, trying to figure out what he or she should be doing today?
That is a phenomenal question. I would say don't be afraid to explore other roles. Don't be afraid to explore other organizations. I have a diverse background of working with different organizations in instructional design, from higher education to healthcare to government contracting to most recently professional services, as well as my own independent consulting. And I think what that has done is given me a nice wide breadth of experience and being able to look under the hood of a lot of different organizations and figure out where I want to be. And there's something about my personality at this point or mindset that I enjoy professional services firms. So I would say to that new instruction design professional, don't be afraid to try some other organizations or dabble around with maybe some different roles inside instructional design to find that sweet spot. And I will also say to have a North Star, figure out what it is that you love about instructional design.
Mhm.
What is your purpose for doing instructional design? And mine is to empower people and organizations to improve their game. And it's that simple because there will come a time when project is difficult, or organization is difficult. But if you say, my purpose is to help people, to help teams, to help organizations improve what they're doing, I could say it's difficult right now, but I'm still living my purpose. I'm still doing that. And that helps ride the waves of difficult people in difficult times and in difficult situations. So I would say that don't be afraid of change and to know and have a North Star and a purpose for why you do what you do.
Those are very wise words. I wish somebody had told this to me 10, 15 years ago, because there were times when I would question, what am I doing with my life? And I think today I'm a lot closer to what your purpose, as you stated, is helping individuals and organizations help improve performance. That's something, and probably that's the reason we connected so well over the years. But I seriously wish somebody had told me 15 years back that don't be scared. The other advice that you spoke about, I think it may not sit very well with leaders, but Gen Z is going to love it. That explore and experiment. Go and
Exactly.
find other places. Don't stick to one. But yeah, wonderful. Kay, as always, it's wonderful chatting with you, and thank you once again for doing this. I'm fairly certain it's going to make a huge difference to a lot of people who are either already in the ID world or who are thinking of getting in instructional design but don't know where to go. Thank you.
It was absolutely my pleasure. I've loved everything about this conversation and chatting with you, and I'm just excited for what you're doing in the field and look forward to hearing more.